Hi, and welcome to a deep dive of all things Facebook. I had a recent experience on the platform that led me to do some research. I thought this would just be a short video about the deeply concerning illegal content that I reported on the site and the really inadequate responses. But my research uncovered far more than I imagined. Here I'm putting together all the information I found. What I think is most important to get out there is that Facebook is not a safe site for children. And I'm not talking about the reports of its negative impact on mental health or bullying. It's way worse than that, involving the abuse of minors and the extent of predation on this platform. Shockingly, it plans to implement encryption, which will pose a far greater danger to children and provide even more anonymity to predators. I'll leave this sensitive subject to the end. We'll also look at Facebook's company acquisitions and mergers, its creation of the world's first all-in-one virtual reality technology, its Libra cryptocurrency, its history of tax evasion and data protection issues, its involvement in elections, the controversy surrounding its plans for encryption and child safety. Which leads us to one of the final sections, the huge problem of grooming, predation, illegal graphic content and human trafficking on the site. The crowning glory will be a look at the founding man himself and his hugely expansive work outside of his social media platform. Let's start with the immense wealth, power and social influence it has. These Statista images show its monthly users number 2.6 billion as of this year. That's over 1/3 of the world's population. 2019 shows it as the 6th largest corporation in the world, with a net worth of $512 billion. This year, that's risen by 14 billion to $528 billion. Facebook's annual revenues show an impressive increase year on year, exceeding $70 billion last year. But of that 70 billion, only 20 billion was declared actual taxable income. Did it really pay 50 of its $70 billion revenues and expenses? We'll be looking at their tax practices shortly. In 2019, revenues amounted to 70.7 billion. Up from 55.8 the previous year. How does it make so much money? The main source of income is digital advertising, some of which involves selling our personal information to third parties. We'll also be looking at how it exploits and mismanages our data. First, how is Facebook becoming ever more powerful? In 2012, it bought Instagram for $1 billion, turning its budding rival into its standalone photo app. And in 2014, it also bought WhatsApp for a staggering $19 billion, again snapping up a competing messaging app. That's not all. Since 2007, Facebook has recorded 84 acquisitions and mergers, with many of the companies being shut down after purchase. Zuckerberg is quoted as saying in 2010, "We have not once bought a company for the company. We buy companies to get excellent people, to make sure we're recruiting the best people." As many of Facebook's acquisitions have been messaging, website, blog, advertising and social media platforms from all over the world, was it also eliminating potential competitors? In May last year, Facebook co-founder Chris Hughes called on the company to be broken up due to its unprecedented power. We'll see that he's not the only one questioning if Facebook should be broken up when we delve into its Libra cryptocurrency. The Guardian reports on Chris's New York Times piece how Facebook's acquisition of rival platforms has given Zuckerberg un-American control. Other mergers are expanding Facebook way beyond social media. Let's look at 4 of these chronologically, spanning from 2014 to 2019. In March 2014, it bought Oculus for $2 billion. Their text reads, "The Oculus team at Facebook builds the virtual reality hardware and platform that lets you experience anything, anywhere, with anyone." Virtual reality's potential to connect the world is immense, and we're just getting started. IDC reported that in the worldwide virtual reality shares 2019, Oculus took over as market leader. In November 2016, Facebook bought Zurich Eye, which it integrated with Oculus Virtual Reality. Zurich Eye's video opens with "Translating Science into Life." Here's a clip from their video.
Zurich began operating in spring 2015, focusing on the emerging fields of regenerative medicine and robotics, and with a long-term goal of pursuing bionic technologies.
Why would Facebook buy a company that focuses on the emerging fields of integrative medicine, robotics, and bionic technologies? What is bionic technology? It's a science of constructing artificial systems that have some of the characteristics of living systems, to find new ideas for useful artificial machines and systems. One area of the robotic technology was the visual navigation, which imitates the human eyes and inner ear. Zurich Eye will enable machines to independently navigate in any space. It contains cameras and an inertial measurement unit, which provides orientation as it moves through a space, to create a digital map and perform specific tasks. So Facebook merged Zurich Eye with its Oculus VR. Before we get into the other two acquisitions, let's take a deeper look into Oculus. This is their homepage. Turn the world into your arcade. Turn the world into your arcade. Are they really just talking about virtual reality games here? We'll see as we go deeper into this research that the answer is a clear no. Facebook has far greater plans for virtual reality than gaming. I hope that this game that they gave the prominent position isn't their vision of this world. Scrolling down there's an Oculus headset for everyone. Let's take a look at these headsets. Find the headset that's right for you, a perfect headset for everyone. Everyone? They're out of stock. Does Facebook really think that this is something everyone wants? So many people have far more important concerns than buying a headset and playing games. And is virtual reality for everyone even in humanity's best interest? We'll look at the disturbing potential health impacts shortly. Oculus has a community page under the Virtual Reality for Good tab. Virtual reality for health, change, education, history, and safety. Change? What sort of change does it have in mind? There is nothing virtual about the difference we can make. Yeah, that's what worries me. I'm sure we've all heard reports about Facebook's many issues and failings which we'll be looking at. And check out the small text here. We have the potential to transform education, improve productivity, advance social movements, and expand our understanding of people and cultures around the world, all through the power of virtual reality. And what is their agenda with advancing social movements? And which ones? Now more than ever we're seeing that they can be politicized and used for covert agendas. Scrolling down, new stories, VR for perspective, the key unlocks the refugee experience. So this shares emotional information about how many refugees keep the keys to their homes even after 20 to 30 years. The beautiful power of VR is that it helps us to get around those emotional walls and present the story to participants in the best way possible. So it's superior to real human-to-human contact? Then we scroll to this CGI image. Why not a real human? Why is it all so fake? There's a beautiful film called The Good Lie. It's a true story recounting the lives of Sudanese refugees who get asylum in the US. It portrays many of the immense challenges refugees face. The main actors are all actual refugees, whereas this, I don't get the point of it. Of all the things refugees need, where does VR fit in? Let's scroll on. A tribal past finds its future. How can VR help tribal people in any real and meaningful way? Related content, VR for understanding, breaking barriers around the transgender community, VR for sport, sustainability, young voices tackling urgent change. Let's check that out. Every September, the world's media focuses on New York as heads of state, experts and advisors from around the globe meet at the United Nations for the week of the General Assembly. This year, outside of the Assembly, guests could experience My World 360 Degrees, a collection of films highlighting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of climate action and reducing inequality. A shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and in the future. The project is a collaboration between the United Nations, Digital Promise Global, and Facebook's Oculus. Here we have preparing for emergencies before they happen. Now this is something that I think VR can be useful for, providing simulations for training purposes. This I get, but VR for sustainability, young voices, and helping people in crisis? Don't we need humanity, us, working together to fix these issues? Another website that comes up on a Facebook Oculus search is Horizon. Facebook Horizon is a virtual reality world where you can explore, play, and create. You're not just discovering a new world, you're part of what makes it great. A new world, hey? So what makes it great? Here are some pictures from the intro video on the homepage. This woman is the main character at home on her virtual reality headset while her partner does the cooking in the background. She's acting as a tour guide in the Horizon world, which looks like a Pixar-style futuristic city with interesting clouds. Here she's showing you that there are no rules and you can do anything you want. What she chooses to do with all this choice is have a moustache. This is her friend who is also playing in Horizon, while in the real world she's sitting next to her partner at the table. I'm surprised this is aimed at adults. You'll see that there are only adults shown in this world. Is this really what we want our lives to be like? Infantilized adults playing virtual games in a way that completely removes our awareness from those around us, way more than any previous games consoles? I noticed this clip shows a plate of food in the foreground, and its distance from the woman playing. She's a larger woman, and I wonder if there's a message that VR will remove your craving for food if you're someone who's wanting to lose weight. See how he has food with his drink right by him and isn't overweight? Maybe I'm reading too much into it. This is the end shot of the video. A group of happy adults with arms in the air and no legs. Next we have text captions. Explore. You can discover all sorts of new things that interest and inspire you. Discover you. Discover you? Discover what inspires you and make it come to life. Play. Experience gravity-defying, distance-spanning, genre-bending games. No matter what you're into, you can find it on Facebook Horizon. Painting. Why not paint for real? Create. Anyone can create the world of their dreams. Wow. Share your creations. Citizenship. Create a place that makes us all proud. Establishing our culture. Interesting they're not promoting us doing these in the real world, but in their virtual world. Then comes the option to buy the headsets. When you click shop now, it takes you to this. A completely different feel to the Horizon homepage, hey? Much more high-tech and directed towards young adults. I'll show you clips from the video, but lower down they show the prices. almost £400 to £500 a headset. Let's take a look at how they're marketing their VR products to young people. This guy's wearing the headset, there's actually electronic music on. He's playing a game where he has to smash flying objects with lightsabers. Then this man appears, a geeky looking man, dowdy clothes, he's wearing socks and sandals. He says, "Hi, I'm Reality." And the young guy replies, "Reality? This must be a lot for you." Reality tries to show he's cool by having a laser pen, and he says this light and platform aren't real, but the shapes are magical, while the young guy ignores him and keeps playing. Reality then gets struck and pushed out of the shot by one of the flying shapes in the game. Young guy keeps playing, oblivious to what's happened. Is their message that virtual reality will blow actual reality away? The closing shot says, "Defy reality." Defy reality? Let's get a closer look at the meaning of that. The definitions of defy are to oppose or resist with boldness and assurance, to refuse to submit to or cooperate with, to be beyond the application or scope of. The definitions of reality are the quality or state of being actual or true, a person, entity, or event that is actual, and the totality of all things possessing actuality, existence, or essence. So the closing credit, defy reality, means to oppose, resist, or be beyond the scope of being actual, true, having existence or essence. That sounds dark to me, the exact opposite of what life is really about. Here's VR Chat by Oculus. Parental guidance recommended. The comfort rating is intense, which is inappropriate for most people, especially if new to virtual reality. This game, like all of Oculus, is for ages 13 and over. Why is this game rated unsuitable for most people when children aged 13 can play? This is a VR Chat website. Before it gives you any information, it invites you to jump in. Below, it gives you reasons to join, interact with people all over the world, experiment with identity by trying new avatars, help overcome social anxiety, create long-lasting friendships, express yourself, build worlds and invite people to them, play and have fun. And it has a video. Here are some pictures from it. Welcome, a devil, creatures in a bar, creatures dancing, another one with horns and a halo, this robot in sexy dress, this person being pushed and falling, and pizza. 50,000 community-created worlds. Massive global community. I couldn't find any information about the minimum user age. I had to scroll right down to see the tiny terms of use link. It's the only place where they state that the minimum user age is 13. Are young people's brains still developing then? Yes. The prefrontal lobe, which happens in adolescence. It helps with regulation of complex cognitive, emotional and behavioural functioning. I read up on some forums where people were discussing if VR Chat was suitable for children. The responses were unanimously no, as despite moderators being quick to block users when needed, there was still adult content discussed, and that it's unsafe for young people to chat with strangers. Are there any dangers to virtual reality? This reviewer wrote about feeling more invested in the game soon after starting it, and that she played so much that sometimes when she woke up, she was genuinely confused whether she was in the virtual world or the real world, and often finds herself afraid to walk forwards because she would normally hit her wall. By normally, she means being in the virtual reality world with a headset on. This reviewer wrote, "It's the best VR experience he's ever had. This game will change the world and the way people interact forever. 65 hours of playing in the last 2 weeks, and he still wishes he had more time to play." This is from Oculus's Health and Safety Warning PDF. Minimum user age is 13, as the headsets are not sized for children. So the headset is a universal size for all ages between 13 and adults. Also because children are in a critical period in visual development. There may be discomfort, repetitive stress injury. They advise limit the time children spend and ensure that they take regular breaks. And prolonged use should be avoided, as this could negatively impact eye-hand coordination, balance, and multitasking ability. Adults should monitor children closely during and after use for any decrease in these abilities. Users should take 10 to 15 minutes break every half hour, and use of the headset and controllers may result in a loss of balance. Using the device might make your muscles, joints, neck, hands, and skin hurt. Under discomfort, we have this impressive list of possible adverse reactions: seizures, eye strain, eye or muscle twitching, involuntary movements, visual abnormalities, dizziness, disorientation, impaired balance, impaired hand-eye coordination, excessive sweating, increased salivation, lightheadedness, discomfort, drowsiness, and fatigue. Symptoms of VR exposure can persist and become more apparent after use. These symptoms may put you at an increased risk of injury when engaging in normal activities in the real world. Wow. Why is there no warning of these risks visible on their website, and no clear warning that this is not suitable for pre-teen children? Is it even safe for young teenagers? This 2009 study showed that children acquired false memories in virtual reality. Results showed that preschool children were equally likely to develop false memories regardless of memory prompt condition. For elementary children, the mental imagery and IVET self-conditions cause significantly more false memories. In 2014, UCLA virtual reality tests on rats found results from the virtual and real environments were entirely different. In the virtual world, the rat's hippocampal neurons seemed to fire completely randomly, as if the neurons had no idea where the rat was. Even though the rats seemed to behave perfectly normal in the real and virtual world. And while the rat's hippocampal neurons were highly active in the real-world environment, more than half of those neurons shut down in the virtual space. The neural pattern in virtual reality is substantially different from the activity pattern in the real world. We need to fully understand how VR really affects the brain. Yep. Here are a few snippets from VRChat's privacy policy. It does not process or respond to web browsers, do not track signals, or other similar transmissions that indicate a request to disable online tracking of users who use our service. We may automatically record certain information from your device by using various types of technology, including clear GIFs or web beacons, like your IP address, web browser, and device type. The web pages or sites that you visit just before or just after you use the service. What are they doing collecting data on your private web searches before and after playing on this platform? This information is gathered from all users. They also collect information regarding your interaction with email messages. This information is gathered from all users and may be connected with other information about you. We may display third-party content on the service, including third-party advertising. Their content may use cookies, web beacons, or other mechanisms for obtaining data. information collected through third-party web beacons and buttons is collected directly by these third parties, not by VR chat. Such information is subject to that third party's own data collection, use and disclosure policies. Please note that privacy choices you have made on VR chat will not carry over to third-party sites or services and vice versa. We may obtain information from third parties and sources other than the service. A useful browser that blocks tracking and adverts is Brave, and the DuckDuckGo search engine offers the same protections. Interesting that Facebook's VR chat does not respond to these tracking blockers. Let's get back to the Facebook company acquisitions. We've got 2 more examples from their mammoth total of 84. Chainspace was a London-based cryptocurrency company that Facebook bought in February 2019. That June, The Telegraph wrote, the tiny UK startup founded by UCL scientists now at the heart of Facebook's Libra currency. Chainspace was known for its unique approach to designing new financial technology. Former employees of Chainspace are now playing a central role in Facebook's astonishingly bold gambit to take on big banks with its own currency, Libra. Facebook taking on the big banks? This is the Libra website, a simple global payment system and financial infrastructure that empowers billions of people. Provide people everywhere access to safe and affordable services, so people everywhere can live better lives. The Libra project is for the world, a system that empowers billions of people. Libra's launch is due this autumn. I've read the website, but as I'm new to cryptocurrency, much of it didn't really make sense. All that I do know is that cryptocurrency is often used on the dark web for anonymity. Hedge Trade explains how cryptocurrency and the dark web are old friends. Black market deals and illegal trafficking are not an invention of the digital currency, which it describes as a response to today's financial problems and corruption of traditional authoritative institutions. The decentralized digital currency is more about the application of new technology and the creation of new digital markets. Illegal traders often demand payments in cryptocurrencies as it's difficult to track. Not all black market deals are moving illegal goods. Many are exchanging personal property where the deals are not on the books, avoiding tax. But more insidiously, it's harder to track if you're dealing in stolen money or trafficked goods, such as weapons, drugs, and ever-increasingly people, including children. City Index warns that cryptocurrency investments can be vulnerable to hackers, so have antivirus software and don't give your data online if you're storing or investing in cryptocurrencies, as it's easy for them to become stolen otherwise. There are 2 areas I found interesting on the Libra website. One is that the Libra Association wants to establish social impact grant making for social inclusion, and that Libra coins are backed by a reserve of assets, cash equivalents, and very short-term government securities. What are government securities? They're investments, a way to earn interest income and considered risk-free, as when it's time for the governments to pay it back, it can always print money. If a government prints money faster than the growth of real output, it reduces the value of money and raises inflation. Not good. Here's a video clip from last October via CNET, where, quote, lawmakers and the Financial Services Committee grill Facebook's CEO over Libra cryptocurrency, advertising, civil rights, the 2020 elections, and privacy.
Today, we're here to examine the impact of Facebook on the financial services and housing sectors. Our sole witness is Facebook's chairman and CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. Facebook's plans to create a digital currency, Libra, and a digital wallet Calibra raised many concerns relating to privacy, trading risk, discrimination, opportunities for diverse-owned financial firms, national security, monetary policy, and the stability of the global financial system. Each month, 2.7 billion people use your products. That's over a third of the world's population. That's huge. That's so big that it's clear to me and to anyone who hears this list that perhaps you believe that you're above the law, and it appears that you are aggressively increasing the size of your company and are willing to step on or over anyone, including your competitors, women, people of color, your own users, and even our democracy to get what you want. All of these problems I've outlined, and given the company's size and reach, it should be clear why we have serious concerns about your plans to establish a global digital currency that would challenge the US dollar. In fact, you have opened up a serious discussion about whether Facebook should be broken up.
A threat to national security and the global financial system? And again, if Facebook should be broken up. Now for the last merger we're covering. In September 2019, Facebook merged with CTRL Labs as Facebook Reality Labs. This is the CTRL Labs website. They are a world-class group of researchers, developers, and engineers dedicated to building the future of augmented and virtual reality. They're excited to continue to expand human bandwidth with non-invasive neural interfaces to fundamentally transform the way we interact with devices. Is this something humanity wants or needs, even more intensely absorbing technology? They acquired armband patents. This neuroscientist wants you to control your devices like a Jedi, and together they create the wristband that lets the brain control a computer with a thought and a twitch. Here's the wristband technology CTRL kit. Brain-machine interface isn't sci-fi anymore. Engineering the neurotech that will transform humanity and how your brain will one day control your computer. Transform humanity, people. This wording needs paying attention to. They're not saying transform how humanity uses technology. Remember, Facebook, which has a reach of 1/3 of all humans on the planet, merged with this company. The linked Quartz article asks, should this exist? How is technology impacting our humanity? The creators of radical technology set aside the business plan to think through the human side. Then we have this picture, followed by, this is problematic for humanity because we're all relying on them to create the tools that increasingly rule every aspect of our lives. Zuckerberg explained in 2016 that direct contact with the mind was the ideal interaction for his social media platform. Facebook neuroscientists are working out how mind reading will fit into the system. Facebook Reality Labs, an interesting choice of name, turning ideas into realities. While virtual reality and augmented reality may seem like distant experiences today, over time they'll converge and allow us to combine real and virtual worlds freely. It's focused on helping to build that future. It brings together a world-class team of researchers, developers, and engineers to create the future of AR and VR, which together will become as universal and essential as smartphones and personal computers are today, changing how we work, play, and connect. Their chief scientist writes, FRL brings together a world-class team of researchers, developers, and engineers to create the future of how we work, play, and connect with each other. We're working toward developing the AR and VR technology necessary to make the mixed reality experience as essential as our smartphones and PCs are today. From AR glasses and VR headsets to brain-computer interface and haptic interactions, we're creating the next wave of technology just as previous generations have done for us. What is haptic technology? Also known as kinesthetic communication or 3D touch. It refers to any technology that can create an experience of touch. That's fake touch, folks. Their technical program manager writes, over the years, our team has grown to include people from many disciplines and a variety of backgrounds, including the military. We're all working towards one common goal, inventing technologies that will make AR and VR more accessible for everyone. And we're working toward a better understanding of the future. Our work is rooted in research and building and testing technology to learn how we can use our products that people will want to use in the real world. We have the unique opportunity to build something that will change the way humans interact with technology. The following are all from Facebook's own website, tech.fb.com. They operate 5 research facilities around the world to drive AR/VR technology into the future. Virtual reality has enormous potential to transform how we play, work, learn, communicate, and experience the world around us. It's already positively impacting the way companies do business and changing the face of education and professional training in healthcare and beyond. You can explore outer space, step inside history, and connect with friends. And we can leverage this technology to drive meaningful social change. What do they mean by that? They've partnered with research institutions to better understand how VR can positively impact the way we learn. They're working to improve access to virtual reality in libraries and schools, and they're just getting started. This is their vision for how we'll work from home in the future. And this is their Codec Avatar project, building the future of connection with lifelike avatars. The original word avatar means the descent or incarnation of a divine being on earth. The verb means to alight, to make one's appearance. This is their video showing the progress they're making with the Codec avatars.
What do you do for exercise?
I do yoga and then I do boxing too.
What kind of
And-
yoga? Wait, okay, yoga and boxing.
Yeah, there's a nice contrast
Yeah,
there.
okay.
Yeah.
What kind of yoga do you do?
I do hot yoga. I love hot
knew it.
yoga.
Oh my gosh. I've tried it a few times. Hot yoga, I just want to, oh my gosh. I sweat so
Yeah.
much. I melt in there.
Yeah, I
like-
love it.
It's an active research project today, but could radically change the way we connect through virtual reality headsets and augmented reality glasses tomorrow. It's about making it as natural and effortless to interact with people in virtual reality as it is with someone right in front of you. The challenge lies in creating authentic interactions in artificial environments. Let me just repeat that. The challenge lies in creating authentic interactions in artificial environments. Authentic means genuine, real, not a fake or a copy. So you cannot have an authentic artificial anything. Their genuine social presence via virtual reality is also a contradiction. Virtual means almost a particular thing or quality, so it cannot be genuine. An essential milestone on the road to authentic social presence. Right now, proximity determines who we have relationships with. The real promise of this technology is that it lets us spend time with whomever we wish and build meaningful relationships no matter where people live. This is the future of connection. Facebook's core mission to help build communities and bring people closer together. The first time you answered a video call, no one had to tell you why the technology mattered. Sure, are you saying this because people will question why we need digital replicas, maybe? The jump from video calls to avatar calls will deliver genuine social presence. This thing again. The team is deeply invested in getting this right. Check this out. You have to love your avatar, and your mother has to love your avatar before the two of you feel comfortable interacting like you would in real life. That's a really high bar. Sounds an impossibly high bar. You know, replacing reality. Again, with this social presence wording, to produce a real digital likeness, automatically it presents a way forward in virtual face-to-face communication that can scale broadly. Virtual interactions that feel like the person's right there in front of you are a big step in our goal of connecting people. The idea is digitally beaming yourself from one location to the other and feeling like it's real. We're working to let you be you. Oh my God. I'm sorry, I have to go over that again. They're working to let us be us. Wow, so grateful. Thank you. The goal is to create virtual interactions that are indistinguishable from real ones. Now remember how virtual reality planted false memories in children, how it disrupts and reduces neural activity, and the list of possible side effects from current virtual reality. That they want this technology to be as common and essential as our smartphones. Artificial intelligence. Facebook creates breakthrough technologies and advances AI to connect people to what matters and to help keep communities safe. They believe that doing this deep research work now is essential for developing the tools and technologies that will power future applications and that will bring people together. Like these chatbots Facebook that you had to shut down in 2017 after they started talking to each other in their own language. Let's get back to the real world and take a look at Facebook's tax avoidance. December 2019. Fair Tax Marks report highlights the tax gap of the Silicon Six being over $100 billion over the last decade, concluding that the corporation tax paid is much lower than is commonly understood, as profits continue to be shifted to tax havens. The Silicon Six are Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Netflix. Facebook was ranked second for poor tax conduct after Amazon. Its finding for Facebook: the cash tax paid as a percentage of profit was just 10.2% over the period of study, the lowest of any of the Silicon Six, at a time when the rate of tax in the United States was 35%. It had the lowest foreign tax of the Silicon Six at just 5% of profits. Reported contingencies for uncertain tax positions have quadrupled over the last 6 years, and now stand at a significant $7.16 billion. In 2016, the media reported how Facebook was being investigated by the IRS for evading paying its fair share of tax by curbing assets in Ireland and other tax haven countries. Facebook caved to pressure somewhat and agreed to stop routing revenues earned in the UK through Ireland. That same year, The Guardian reported Facebook's UK arm only paid just £4,300 in corporation tax. Facebook does not disclose how much it takes from UK advertisers, but Europe-wide sales jumped 50% in 2014, reaching $3.4 billion, with much of that coming from Britain. In 2015, European profits rose by more than $1 billion to $4.46 billion. That same year, Facebook Ireland Limited paid £3.4 million in tax, despite making $4.8 billion. That's less than 0.1%. Facebook Ireland Limited taxable income is all but wiped out by huge royalty fees it pays for the right to use Facebook's brand name and technologies. Basically, Facebook paying itself to use its own name and sending them to tax haven Cayman Islands. The Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy said this in May 2018. In recent months, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has been hauled before lawmakers in the US and the EU to respond to criticism of the company's privacy policies and sharing of user data, which we'll look at the next section. Its dodgy tax practices are facing increased scrutiny from some of its own shareholders. It was confronted with a shareholder resolution to endorse a set of principles to guide its tax policy and to ensure that such principles consider the impact of its tax strategies on local communities and public services. The resolution is a signal from a group of concerned shareholders that Facebook's tax avoidance hurts its reputation, the communities in which it operates, and creates financial risks to the company's shareholders. According to the Internal Revenue Service, the company may owe somewhere between $3 to $5 billion in additional taxes to these earnings. It is alleged to have substantially undervalued the worth of its intellectual property when transferring it to Ireland. There should be worry that Facebook's aggressive tax avoidance has created unaccounted for financial risks. Investors currently have no way of assessing whether Facebook might end up owing substantially more taxes than it previously disclosed. It paid less than half the statutory rate on its $14.8 billion in pre-tax US profits between 2010 and 2015. In 2012, the company made more than $1 billion and didn't pay a cent in federal income taxes. Silicon Republic posted in March 2018, tech multinationals operating in Europe may soon be hit with proposed levy on revenues rather than profits. A three-pronged digital tax in response to calls in France, Germany and the UK for a tougher approach on tax avoidance by tech giants. The levy of 3% will be raised against advertising and subscription revenues generated by digital companies such as Facebook, as well as income made from selling personal data to third parties. The 3% tax is being put forward by Brussels for the year 2020 as an interim solution pending far-reaching digital reforms. For now, 2018 records show that Facebook did honour its agreement and increased its tax payment to £15.8 million, which is still just 1% of its £1.3 billion earned in the UK. In 2017, the EU fined Facebook £94 million for misleading the EU over its WhatsApp merger. As we'll see in the next section, this is one of many fines levied against Facebook. Facebook started in 2004 and went live for public release in 2006. Already in 2008, its data and privacy concerns were raised when it faced a class action lawsuit over Beacon, which it subsequently shut down. The move comes more than a year after a group of Facebook users filed a class action lawsuit against the social networking site, claiming that Beacon was forced upon them, was not properly explained, and was too hard to opt out of. Facebook had hoped Beacon, an advertising system implemented in 2007 to exploit the power of word-of-mouth marketing, which inserted details of purchases made at participating websites into the news feeds of Facebook users, making it visible to all their friends, would provide a revenue boost for the company as well as prove useful to others. Here are its own words regarding our data. January 2018. Facebook's commitment to data protection and privacy in compliance with General Data Protection Regulation. It takes data protection and people's privacy very seriously, and we are committed to continuing to comply with data protection laws. Facebook and its affiliates, including Instagram, Oculus, and WhatsApp, will all comply with the GDPR. We are committed to transparency, control, and accountability. How ironic is it that same year, Facebook had 2 data breaches where over 130 million accounts were hacked and was heavily fined multiple times for data violations and lack of transparency. Facebook's data protection issues have been well documented for many years. What isn't as well known is that Facebook gathers data from our website browsing via cookies, even when we're logged out and even if we don't have an account. In April 2018, the Sydney Morning Herald reported how lawmakers and privacy advocates protested this and called on it to develop a way for non-users to find out what information the company knows about them. Facebook replied that it had no plans to create such a tool. Doesn't say much for its transparency and respect for data privacy. It gets some data from non-users from people on its network, such as when a user uploads email addresses of friends. Other information comes from cookies, small files stored via a browser and used by Facebook and others to track people on the internet, sometimes to target them with ads. From Facebook itself, cookies enable it to offer their products to you and to understand the information they receive about you, including information about your use of other websites and apps, whether or not you are registered or logged in. In 2016, we have this report. Relaxing privacy vow. WhatsApp will share some data with Facebook. When Facebook bought the startup WhatsApp in 2014, Jan Koum, one of WhatsApp's founders, declared that the deal would not affect the digital privacy of his mobile messaging service's millions of users. We don't know your birthday, we don't know your home address. None of that data has ever been collected and stored by WhatsApp, and we really have no plans to change that. In 2016, in a move that is rankling some of the company's more than 1 billion users, WhatsApp said it would start disclosing the phone number and analytics data of its users to Facebook. It will be the first time the messaging service has connected users' accounts to the social network to share data as it tries to coordinate information across its collection of businesses. In 2018, which turned out to be a bad year for the firm, Jan Koum left Facebook over user data disputes, explaining how deeply he cared about the privacy of communication. Respect for your privacy is coded into our DNA, and we built WhatsApp around the goal of knowing as little about you as possible. If partnering with Facebook meant that we had to change our values, we wouldn't have done it. What a shame Zuckerberg doesn't have the same ethics. In early 2018, we have Facebook's largest data breach with the Cambridge Analytica's data harvest of up to 87 million profiles to influence the US elections. The Economic Times reported on Zuckerberg's first congressional inquisition in April 2018. The result was a $5 billion fine approved by the US Federal Trade Commission, as shown here in The Independent that July, following allegations that it inappropriately shared information belonging to 87 million users with the now defunct British consultancy firm Cambridge Analytica. A Guardian follow-up report headlines: a year after the devastating revelations of data abuse, Zuckerberg still hasn't fulfilled its promise of reform, as the FTC said Facebook must update and adopt new privacy and security features. The New York Times reported that its data deals were under criminal investigation. In June, just months following the Cambridge Analytica breach, It gave device makers deep access to data on users and friends, following a data-sharing partnership with Apple, Samsung, and dozens of other device makers, raising concerns about its privacy protections. Wired expands this by clarifying that it gave these companies access to users' friends' data even after it publicly cut off that date in 2015. In October 2018, it faced a $1.6 billion fine and formal investigation by the Irish data regulator over yet another data breach where almost 50 million accounts were hacked. The November 2018 New York Times headlines, "Facebook fails to police how its partners handled user data. It failed to closely monitor device makers after granting them access to the personal data of hundreds of millions of people," according to a previously unreported disclosure to Congress last month. Its loose oversight of the partnerships was detected by the company's government-approved privacy monitor in 2013. But it was never revealed to Facebook users, most of whom had not explicitly given the company permission to share their information. Then in December, Italy fined Facebook £8.9 million for misleading users about data use. The independent article explains the fines here for misleadingly encouraging people to sign up without informing them in an immediate and adequate way of how their data would be sold to third parties, and for aggressively discouraging users from trying to limit how it shared their personal information by telling them that doing so risked them experiencing significant limitations. It has been looking to increase its data revenue by offering our profile data to government political campaigns as far back as 2016. The Wall Street Journal reported how it's dominating the 2016 elections. The social network's vast reach and micro-marketing tools are mana for political advertisers. Spending on Facebook Inc. could surpass spending on Google, reversing the historical pattern. This is no small accomplishment considering how powerful search advertising remains as a conduit for motivated donors and volunteers. The Sydney Morning Herald reported in 2018, the powerful Facebook data matching tool the Liberal Party rejected over legal fears. Australia's major parties were offered data tool in 2016 elections. So this was a new and powerful data matching tool which could breach the law by sending voters' personal details to Facebook's offshore servers. The advanced matching tool, so-called custom audience, targets specific people, including undecided voters and marginal seats, with highly targeted online advertising. The Labour Party did use the tool, but declines to reveal what information it may have allowed Facebook to access. The tool would allow parties to match data they had collected about voters, age, email, phone numbers, postcodes, names, and birth dates, against similar information listed by people on their Facebook profiles. The combination of the two datasets would allow parties to target Australians identified as swinging voters with tailored ads when they used Facebook. The revelations of the offer comes amid global debate over the role of social media in political campaigning, and specifically allegations about Facebook's influence on the political process. The tool promised a 17% increase in matching rates. The party was concerned about possible breaches of the Privacy Act and Electoral Act. Facebook said in a statement that all parties are offered the same training, material, and products at the same time. It's a decision for each campaign whether and how they choose to use them. It was unable to say if the data of Australian users was hosted locally or offshore. This is Facebook for Government, Politics and Advocacy, a guide for using Facebook to engage with voters and build your online community. For those standing for election, elected officials, governments and political organizations. Point 4 reads, reach more people, promote your content to reach the people you care about with topics that are most important to them. Exactly what personal information from our pages is it providing to politicians and government organizations? Their mission is to help people become informed voters in the lead up to elections, help them find, follow, and connect with the people that represent them in government. How does it ascertain just exactly who represents us in government? Protecting election integrity. We're investing heavily in new products, people, and technology to make sure we're not just ready for this year's elections around the world, but those for years to come. Steps they're taking ahead of upcoming elections, reducing misinformation and harmful content. Remember that about harmful content when we get to the illegal content section. If it already has a huge problem with not just explicit content, which violates the community guidelines, but actually illegal content, how can they assure us that they are able to manage content relating to elections globally? Here, it's helping to protect the 2020 elections. It has made large investments in teams and technologies to better secure elections. Elections have changed, and so has Facebook. They've made significant improvements to reduce the spread of misinformation and provide more transparency around political ads. They provide additional context so we can make informed choices by removing violating content, third-party fact-checking program, and reducing distribution of false news. So it's selling tools to governments that gather and share our private information. The extent of detail that it gleans from our profiles and website usage is phenomenal. In the next section, you'll see how it exploits teenagers' specific emotional states for targeted adverts. For anyone wanting to understand why our data is so valuable and how it's used, I recommend this VPRO documentary, Shoshana Zuboff on Surveillance Capitalism, and her book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. Before we move on, I just want to backtrack to this Facebook for Government's Politics and Advocacy page, as the image on the top right caught my eye. Notice the black mark on the index finger? It reminded me of ID 2020, who, with partners, launched a program to provide digital ID with vaccines. We'll look at two of those partners shortly. First, what is ID 2020? An NGO whose website states, the need for good digital ID is universal, and the ability to prove who you are is a universal human right. Because we live in a digital era, we need a trusted and reliable way to prove identity in the physical world and online. A unique convergence of trends provides an unprecedented opportunity to make a coordinated, concerted push to provide digital ID to everyone. They have 6 key points: a fundamental and universal human right, necessary to access essential service, a gateway to economic opportunity, critical for targeting services and assistance to those who need them, important for gender equality, and a key enabler of global development. A key enabler of global development? Necessary to access essential service? Gender equality? Let's look at the ID 2020 partners. Here's Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, formerly the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, which brings together the public and private sectors with a shared goal of creating equal access to new and underused vaccines for children living in the world's poorest communities. Gavi's website tells us that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation pledged $750 million to set up Gavi in 1999. The foundation is a key Gavi partner in vaccine market shaping. Another of the 5 ID 2020 partners is Microsoft. The American multinational technology company joined in January 2018 as a founding partner. Members of the Microsoft team sit on its technical and program delivery advisory committees. Gates was still on the board then, stepping down earlier this year. So Bill Gates is heavily involved in 2 of the 5 partners of ID 2020. How does this tie in with Facebook? In March this year, Business Insider reports Gates and Zuckerberg are working together to fund research for pandemic treatments. The Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative is contributing $25 million to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Accelerator Fund for finding treatments to COVID-19. The only treatment that Gates is pushing aggressively is vaccines. The accelerator is one of several ways tech giants are helping to combat the spread. What is the Gates Foundation Accelerator Fund? The Foundation, Wellcome and MasterCard launch initiative to speed development and access to therapeutics. Accelerator will coordinate research and development efforts to remove barriers to drug development and scale up to address the epidemic. They met in Seattle earlier this year. What are the barriers to drug development and scale-up that they want to remove? Could they include any of the safety and precaution barriers? This April, Gates Foundation calls for global cooperation on vaccine for 7 billion people. Their foundation chief executive said there are 7 billion people on the planet. We need to vaccinate nearly everyone. There will be no return to normal until there is a vaccine. The fastest vaccine ever. Both China and the US have to be part of the joint effort, as well as the World Health Organization. US President Trump has cut funding for WHO, who the foundation describes as a very strong, reliable partner, noting the Gates Foundation is the WHO's second largest source of funding after the US. Meaning that now the Gates Foundation is the largest funder of the World Health Organization. So Bill Gates, who leads the global vaccine industry, is the main funder of the World Health Organization? Anyone else see a conflict of interest here? What is his vaccine safety track record? From 2014, controversial vaccine studies. Why is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation under fire from critics in India? The committee found the study objectives were to collect and record data on the effect of the HPV vaccine on children and introducing the vaccine into India's immunization program. PATH embarked on a large-scale 5-year project with studies in Peru, Vietnam, Uganda and India. The study was sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is involved in hundreds of projects, of which vaccines are a significant area in almost every country that is counted as poor. Partnering with PATH for vaccine studies in Africa and Asia. So Gates funded the PATH studies in India to study the HPV vaccine and push it into the Indian immunization schedule. The project hit a roadblock after the deaths of some of the children. The Gates Foundation has to take full responsibility as it funded PATH, calling it unethical that the same people championing vaccines are also invested in vaccine development. Gates funded 2 organizations influencing India's vaccine program, Gavi and Public Health Foundation of India. We need to follow the precautionary principle when it comes to vaccines. The current trend is to dilute safety testing criteria and cut short on time required to conduct proper observational studies. Does Gates's therapeutic accelerator, which Zuckerberg donated to, risk compromising these even further? Reuters reported in 2017 how India cuts some funding ties with Gates. It funded the Immunisation Technical Support Unit, which will now be fully funded by the government, as it felt there was a need to completely manage it on their own. Concerns were raised over an apparent conflict of interest because Gates' foundation also backs Gavi, who has big pharmaceutical companies as partners. The pentavalent vaccine also caused concern after many infants died soon after receiving it in Sri Lanka, Bhutan and Vietnam, where it was temporarily suspended. In November last year, it was reported that there are more polio cases caused by vaccines than the wild virus, with 4 African countries affected. The Independent Monitoring Board, set up by the World Health Organization to assess polio eradication, reported that vaccine-derived polio is spreading uncontrolled in West Africa, bursting geographical boundaries and raising fundamental questions for the eradication process. Officials were already failing badly at stopping all vaccine-derived outbreaks within 120 days, and the initial attitude of WHO and its partners to stopping the vaccine linked polio as relaxed. This is the Polio Global Eradication Initiative. Here are its 6 organizations, 3 of which, highlighted here, are all influenced by Bill Gates, whose foundation promotes the vaccine in Africa. It reports how Nigeria is affected by circulating vaccine-derived polio type 2 outbreaks. No wild or natural polio type 2 has been detected in the country since 2016. The CDC describes vaccine-derived polio as a strain that has changed over time and behaves like the natural virus, which can spread more easily to unvaccinated people. Eradication requires stopping all OPV in routine immunizations as soon as possible after the spread of wild polio transmissions. Gates's Gavi also calls for the phased removal of OPV, but says the risk of vaccine-related polio is not vaccine-related, but due to low vaccination population. It then writes that WHO, also Gates-funded, promote children continue to be vaccinated, and that Gavi supports countries that implement these guidelines. A polio vaccine that can cause polio, and the solution to that is more polio vaccines. Also, Gates's Gavi supporting countries who follow the WHO guidelines, which is also Gates funded. Italian Member of Parliament Sara Cuniel shared this during her speech before National Parliament. Bill Gates must be charged by International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity, criticizing the Italian Prime Minister for joining with Gates in a global coup. So is Zuckerberg helping to fund Gates's accelerator just as a good cause, or is there more to it? We'll see that they have a more developed business partnership when we explore Zuckerberg right at the end. There are also similar business experiences that Zuckerberg and Gates share. Some will be explored at the end when we delve deeper into Zuckerberg, but for now, here are some uncanny resemblances that Gates' Microsoft shares with Facebook. The US versus Microsoft over personal data stored outside of the US. It's been involved in 2 decades of multiple antitrust actions by the US Department of Justice, the European Commission, and many private litigants, reining in a corporate power intent on eliminating competition. In 2004, it was ruled that it had abused its market dominance. In 2008, it was fined €900 million for excessive royalty fees, and in 2013, €561 million for not complying with the previous conditions. In 2018, it was fined by the Dutch government for large-scale and covert data gathering of people's information via Office. And last year, it was fined 25 million for bribing government officials in Hungary. I wonder if Zuckerberg received some business mentoring from Gates when he founded Facebook. Getting back to Facebook, let's explore if it's suitable for children. This section does not discuss the sensitive subject of illegal content, which we'll look at in the next section. So, the official minimum age for Facebook users is 13 years. Despite this, many children under 13 have a profile account. NetAware shares some insights into the safety levels for children on Facebook. Here, it shows experts' view of the risks for 5 areas, where 4 of these areas, sexual, violence and hatred, bullying, and suicide and self-harm, are ranked high risk. Drink, drugs and crime is the only one that's ranked lower, but it's still a medium risk. Here, NetAware explains how even if your child's account is set to private, other people can still send them friend requests. There are 2 friend request settings: everyone or friends of friends, meaning that even when you select the latter, strangers can still contact your child if they are a friend of a friend. Why isn't there a private setting on teenagers' accounts to prevent strangers making contact with them? If you're a parent whose child is online, there are parental control apps and software you can install to safely supervise your child's online activity to ensure that they are not being messaged by potential predators or being subjected to explicit content. 2 examples are Custodio and Kid Logger. In May 2017, News.com.au wrote, "Leaked document reveals Facebook conducted research to target emotionally vulnerable and insecure youth." The Guardian wrote how it told advertisers it can identify teens feeling insecure and worthless, describing how it shares psychological insights on young people with advertisers, targeting potentially vulnerable youths needing a confidence boost to facilitate predatory advertising practices, exploiting the moods and insecurities of teenagers using the platform for the potential benefit of advertisers. The confidential document detailed how, by monitoring posts, comments, and interactions on the site, it can figure out when people as young as 14 feel defeated, overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, nervous, stupid, silly, useless, and a failure, dubbed sentiment analysis, which could be used to target youths when they are potentially more vulnerable. While Google is the king of the advertising world, Facebook is the other major player which dominates the industry worth about $80 billion last year. So our and our children's posts and comments are subjected to sentiment analysis. So when we're feeling vulnerable, advertisers can be alerted, as we might be more likely to indulge in buying their product to help make us feel better. Also in 2017, Facebook opened a new product to bring in children under the age of 13 called Messenger Kids, a free video calling and messaging app for smartphones and tablets. Keep in touch with close friends and family with fun-filled features like filters and stickers. January 2018, Facebook No Place for Young Children, citing that more than 100 child experts are urging it to withdraw an app aimed at under 13s. In an open letter to Zuckerberg, they call Messenger Kids an irresponsible attempt to encourage young kids to use Facebook. Young children are not ready to have social media accounts, they say. Facebook says the app was designed with safety experts in response to parental calls for more control over how children used social media. It's a simplified, locked-down version of Messenger, requiring parental approval before use, and data generated from it is not used for advertising. Notice it doesn't say that they don't store it though. Why don't they apply these safety features to all young adults on the site? The open letter says, Messenger Kids will most likely be the first social media platform widely used by elementary school children aged 4 to 11 years old. But a growing body of research demonstrates that the excessive use of digital devices and social media is harmful to children and teens, making it very likely this new app will undermine children's healthy development. With emerging research indicating a link between increased social media use and mental health issues in children and teenagers, such as increased anxiety, depression, cyberbullying, disrupted sleep, reduced exercise, and impacting academic performance, should our children be subjected to ever more digital interactions and new, increasingly immersive technologies when these are still relatively new to our culture, with the long-term effects as of yet unknown? Child advocacy groups have been sounding the alarm for several years now, but children's use of social media is on the increase. Could Facebook be, in effect, grooming children to accept their technology so that they are more likely to embrace their virtual reality and codec avatars in the near future? To see the full extent of the very real, serious danger their platform presents to young people, we come to the most sensitive subject areas of this video. The very real issues of child predators using Facebook to contact, groom, and abuse children, and the extent of explicit, illegal content on the site. These subjects will be discussed sensitively and are only exposed here to alert people of what's going on in the hope that together we can protect young people at risk of potential harm. No graphic details will be disclosed. This is what started my research when in May of this year I saw a post on a Facebook group that I'm a member of. It was calling for a group with explicit content to be reported in order to get it removed. I'll be sharing the reports and Facebook's replies shortly, and shockingly, this was not a one-off case. I came to learn that it has groups with tens of thousands of members from around the world posting and sharing graphic illegal content involving minors, basically paedophile exchange groups. Its community standard states, "We take our role seriously in keeping abuse off our service. Our policies are based on feedback from our community and the advice of experts in fields such as technology, public safety, and human rights. To ensure that everybody's voice is valued, we take care to craft policies that are inclusive of different views and beliefs, in particular those of people and communities that might otherwise be overlooked or marginalized." My question, based on my experience and research, is, does this include marginalized groups who engage in illegal activities, more specifically child predators? I know this might sound far-fetched, but let's look into this before we dismiss the notion. Community Standards Point 14, Adult Nudity and Sexual Activity, Policy Rationale. We restrict the display of the above because some people in our community may be sensitive to this type of content. That's a strange reason because, as it's a social networking site designed to connect people and it has children on there, why would there be any reason to have any explicit adult content on there? I would have expected it to say that it's inappropriate content for a social network site that has children on it. It continues, "Additionally, we default to removing sexual imagery to prevent the sharing of non-consensual or underage content. By default? Doesn't that sound like it automatically deletes all inappropriate content? Why is there no warning that some content may be posted and that we need to report it? I'm also surprised at the lax language they use to describe two illegal types of content, non-consensual and underage. There's no warning here that this type of content is illegal, nor that posting such will be reported to law enforcement. Restrictions on the display of this activity also apply to digitally created content, unless it's posted for educational, humorous, or satirical purposes. It then states, do not post photos of real nude adults or sexual activity. Notice only nude adults and not children. It goes on to list very detailed and graphic examples of what quantifies as these, but does not specify illegal content involving children. In December of last year, the UK's children's charity, NSPCC, highlighted how Facebook must be stopped from creating hiding places for child abuse. Police recorded over 4,000 instances where Facebook apps were used in child abuse image and online sexual offences last year. Data obtained from responses to a Freedom of Information request by 32 UK police forces showed Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp, all Facebook companies, were used on average 11 times a day. And these are just the reported cases. Imagine the real figure. The NSPCC are warning that child sexual abuse, from here on called CSA, will go undetected if it continues with its plan to encrypt messaging on Facebook and Instagram without first putting clear safeguards in place. If it applies encryption, the platform will no longer be able to see and report illegal content to law enforcement, so police will be left working in the dark. And more serious abuse will likely take place on Facebook-owned apps, as abusers won't have to move their victims off the platforms to encrypted ones to groom them. 6 months on 3rd of June this year, via Yahoo, how MPs were warned that Facebook's encryption plans could increase risk of online child abuse. The end-to-end encryption could turn the lights out for law enforcement fighting online CSA. Senior figures from the National Crime Agency and the Internet Watch Foundation told the Home Office Select Committee that they are yet to receive assurances from Facebook on the issue. It has previously announced plans to fully encrypt communications on its Messenger app as well as Instagram Direct, on top of WhatsApp, which is already encrypted, meaning no one, apart from the sender and recipient, can read or modify the messages. The social network said the system is designed to improve user privacy on its services. However, Robert Jones, Director of Threat Leadership at the National Crime Agency, told the committee that such a system would make it far more difficult to detect abuse. I am deeply concerned about its proposals. We have articulated those concerns to Facebook through policy officials and directly with them through bilateral meetings. What it's been unable to explain is how, when you apply the end-to-end encryption model and you lose that insight and ability to look at hash values, text, and all those things, how they will replace that with a regime that doesn't effectively turn the lights out for law enforcement and prevents us from getting that insight. His response to the social media industry's general response to tackling online CSA, he said it was clear the sector needed to do more, arguing there was no excuse why more was not being done given the detection technology available to the major platforms. Keep that in mind, that Facebook has the detection technology. It will be relevant in our next section. The NSPCC senior policy officer said, The National Crime Agency are right that tech's response to online child abuse is being hampered by a lack of regulation, and this unaccountability would not be tolerated for other industries. Police data shows that over half of recorded online grooming offences in England and Wales involved Facebook-owned apps, which makes it all the more important for Zuckerberg to halt his plans to encrypt messaging services until and unless he can guarantee children's protection. It's time for the government to urgently press ahead with laws with the power to hold tech directors criminally accountable if their company's design choices allow CSA. The next video is from Bloomberg from last October, at a House Financial Services Committee hearing where Representative Ann Wagner questions Zuckerberg about the staggering extent of CSA reports on its platform and the threat of encryption leading to this content then being undetectable.
16.8 million, as confirmed by the Department of Justice, of the 18.4 million worldwide reports of child sexual abuse material are on Facebook. 16.8 of the 18.4 million. These 18.4 million reports from last year included a record 45 million photos and videos. These are absolutely shocking numbers. Moreover, it's estimated that 70% of Facebook's valuable reporting to NCMEC, the National Center on Missing and Exploited Children, would be lost if Facebook implements its end-to-end encryption proposal.
Zuckerberg responds that the numbers are so high from Facebook because it's doing more reporting than other sites. Can we believe him when he is bringing in encryption despite the evident dangers? With its platforms already involved in over half of all CSA and grooming cases in the UK? This clip from the YouTube channel Anything Goes with James English interviews two members of the Wolf Pack, a group exposing paedophiles by creating child profiles on Facebook.
The profile's dormant. I make it and then I just leave it. But pretty much, I mean, anyone who makes a profile on Facebook will know, if you're a child or if you've got a child, that like if you make a child's Facebook, you're just going to get like 200 people adding you in maybe the first couple of hours, or like just people messaging you. I tend to sort through a lot of them because a lot of them are from like America, Canada, Australia, Germany, or you know, wherever.
India, stuff like that.
India. All different continents, and so we just really can't do that much about that.
So you get messages straight away from adults messaging kids that are living?
Yeah, definitely on Facebook. It's like Facebook, and then there's a couple of other apps which are very, like, you know that if you put a picture of a kid on there, you can definitely get people contacting you, and you won't have to do anything to elicit a response. It will just come.
So what kind of messages do you get at the start? Is it X-rated straight away, or is it kind of PG where...
It's always the same. It's always, oh, you're too young to be on here. You shouldn't be on here. There's bad men on here. They're going to try and talk to you in a certain way. Bye-bye kind of thing. And we always know an hour later they're back. So what are you doing on this app? What are you doing here? What you here for and all that? And then it just descends from there right into sexual talk. They're about to send pictures of themselves, asking for pictures. It just descends into...
just gruesome stuff. So how does that affect...
Earlier this year, 60 Minutes Australia filmed a report about an online paedophile hunter who also uses social media platforms, including Facebook, to expose them. The Paedophiles Exposed Facebook group shares this on their page. We are shocked that Facebook never takes note of our complaints when we report a convicted pedo using the platform. We wonder, are Facebook secret paedophile supporters? Their help team confirms that convicted offenders are not allowed to maintain an account, and such accounts are to be reported. These people replied that their reports of such accounts were ineffective and that the accounts remained on the site. Let's now directly look at Facebook. This is a screenshot of a paedophile exchange group with illegal hardcore graphic content on it posted by group members. It was created on the 1st of May this year, and already in just 3 weeks it had 23,000 members. Here you can see that it's a public group, that anyone can see who is in the group and what they post. That means there is no warning or age restriction, that children could be at risk of seeing illegal graphic content. The visible comment at the bottom of the screen shows someone asking for videos. This group was reported multiple times and shut down within 2 hours, unlike the following groups I'll cover in a minute, which remained active for over 15 hours despite multiple reports from many people, which allowed people to continue uploading illegal content and requests frequently during that time. The difference was we'd learned not just to report it to Facebook, which you do by selecting Report the Group page or profile, select Nudity, which then brings up the lower list of options, involves a child, but also reporting it to the Internet Watch Foundation to ensure the report is logged with an independent organization who reports it to law enforcement, and so that it's recorded on the social media's CSA report statistics. This is one of the 2 other groups which I reported after seeing it on a group I'm a member of that is working to stop these groups. The name of this group even has beautiful kids in it. It had only pictures of children on its page. Most were just child modelling photos, with some showing naked and sexually suggestive photos. Facebook acknowledged my report and wrote that I would receive an update once it had been reviewed. I never received an update, but the group was shut down the following day, about 15 hours later. This is the other group I reported. Unfortunately, I did not have the screen save technology then, so I'm unable to share specifics about when the group was started and how many members it had. But I remember being shocked that it had over 10,000. This group was nothing but hardcore, explicit content, predominantly related to CSA, with many adverts and requests for videos. It also contained hardcore bestiality content. I know this thanks to Facebook's shocking reply that I received just over an hour after I reported it. We reviewed the group, and there was some content that doesn't follow our community standards. We removed that specific content instead of the entire group. I couldn't believe it. It didn't delete a group showing not just content that breaches their community standards, but that actually breaks the law. Their reply continues, "Please let us know if there is anything else that concerns you. If you want us to review something specific in a group, make sure that you report the content, i.e. photo, not the entire group. We want to keep Facebook safe and welcoming for everyone." I was shocked. Firstly, because I had no idea content like this was on the platform. Second, because I had been subjected to horrific images involving minors and animals for the first time in my life. And thirdly, I was expecting a reply along the lines of, "Thank you for your report. We apologize that this content was on our platform and have reported it to law enforcement." Instead, they allowed the group to remain fully active even after they reviewed it. It wasn't as if you had to scroll down to find the occasional offending content. Remember that this group was nothing but hardcore videos, photos, requests for those, and solicitation. People get their profiles suspended for not even breaching community standards, whereas this was illegal content that lands someone in jail for having just one photo downloaded. I spent the next hour scrolling through that disgusting content, reporting each individual post and the person who posted it, until I couldn't bear seeing any more. Out of all those reports, I only received 11 replies. These 3 profiles had their accounts deleted. At the end of the reviews, Facebook states that if that person's profile is restored, meaning if they appeal and Facebook restores their profile, the photo I reported might reappear. If this happens, please feel free to report again. Are they serious? Can you believe this is their response? Where is their response that this content has been reported to crime agencies and is forever removed from their platform? It only gets worse from here. The next reply stated that the photo I reported had been removed and that they let the person know it's been removed. They didn't even delete their profile. Here we have 7 replies, all saying my report couldn't be prioritized because of the virus outbreak. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It writes, Facebook, like many people and organizations around the world, are affected by the outbreak. We have fewer people available to review reports right now. We want to make sure that we can still review the most harmful content as soon as possible, so we are prioritizing what our team reviews right now. We aren't able to prioritize all reports for review by our team. So with their gargantuan income in the tens of billions and their staff's ability to review reports while working remotely from home, what is Facebook's excuse for not prioritizing reports of illegal content involving children? The reply continues, we realize this could be disappointing, but we want to reassure you that we do have technology in place that takes down certain content on Facebook that goes against our community standards. How can that be reassuring when it evidently failed in finding these countless illegal images? We'll use your report to improve that technology. Finally, we want to make sure that you know that there are other steps you can take if you find something offensive or upsetting. Hide the content, unfollow the person or page, or block the person or page. Keeping Facebook safe is important to all of us. Thank you for taking the time to submit a report. Now, I appreciate that such a platform can have issues with the volume of members and posts. Sure, there can be the occasional case of inappropriate material, but Facebook has far more than just the occasional content, and that they fail to deal with it appropriately even when it's been reported multiple times. Remember Robert Jones from the National Crime Agency, who said there was no excuse why more was not being done given the detection technology available to it. That's a very important question, and one which we have not had an answer to. Concerns over human trafficking have also been directed at the platform. Already as far back as January 2011, where Tech in Asia reports how Facebook is used for human trafficking in Indonesia. Facebook can be used for social causes, connecting with friends, or even market a product virally. But in Indonesia, Facebook is used as a channel for human trafficking. Chief of Crime and Investigation said that based on the suspect's confession, all victims were put on the market through Facebook. The social network also has applications like photos to ease the trafficking procedures. Engadget, October 2018, reporting on the human trafficking lawsuit against the site. The complaint says it has continually been used to facilitate human trafficking by allowing traffickers an unrestricted platform to extort minors into the trade. It is now the first point of contact between the traffickers and children. It also cloaks the traffickers with credibility. It is accused of negligence, gross negligence, and being in violation of the 2009 Texas anti-trafficking law. Facebook didn't do enough to verify his identity and should have warned its users that traffickers operate on the site. It responded, "Human trafficking is abhorrent and is not allowed on Facebook. We use technology to thwart this kind of abuse, and we encourage people to use the reporting links found across our site so that our team of experts can review the content swiftly. Yeah, because that works just fine. Facebook also works closely with anti-trafficking organizations and other technology companies, and we report all apparent instances of CSE to NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. How did Facebook respond to its role in facilitating trafficking? It petitioned the court claiming that they were immune from the group of lawsuits. What happened to your accountability, Facebook? Thankfully, the judge ruled that it is not immune in May this year. Reuters highlighted Jane Doe claimed in the lawsuit that she was fooled by the sex trafficker who messaged her on Facebook in 2012 because he appeared to know several of her real-life friends. She agreed to meet him when he offered to console her after a fight with her mother, but instead he beat and abused her, then posted her picture on the now shuttered classified ads website Backpage to be prostituted. The Backpage rabbit hole is a deep one, documented in the Netflix film I Am Jane Doe. Taken to court multiple times from 2010 onwards for trafficking minors, yet unbelievably let off each time despite the evidence and ongoing adverts on its site, until spring 2019. Let's take a look at the Backpage case, as it highlights how online sites that host third-party content, just like Facebook does, have been protected. Its servers were seized and the site was shut down in April 2019. Via NPR, Backpage founders indicted on charges of facilitating prostitution. A federal grand jury in Arizona has indicted 7 people behind the classified ads website on 93 counts, including charges of facilitating prostitution and money laundering. The indictment accuses the executives of presenting Backpage as a site to advertise escort services, while knowing that the overwhelming majority of the website's adverts involved prostitution. The site made over $500 million in prostitution-related revenue. The site had long been known for its adult services ads, some of which feature children. Many of the adverts published on the site depicted children who were victims of sex trafficking, according to the indictment, which alleges that its official policy, when presented with an advert featuring the prostitution of a child, was to delete the particular words in the advert denoting the child's age, and then publish a revised version. It's the first case of federal criminal charges against the people behind it after years of scrutiny and controversy. Several young women and their families have over the years lost lawsuits against the classified's website, accusing it of facilitating child sex trafficking. The Washington Post reports, Backpage has argued that it assists law enforcement in tracking down victims and perpetrators of crimes. We've heard the same from Facebook too. Some police officials have corroborated. Some in the sex worker industry say that removing Backpage from the internet takes away a safe mechanism for screening clients, and that the ads will simply move to sites outside the country or to social media. It has been in legal fights for years, but mostly in civil cases filed by young women and their families. The site's lawyers successfully argued the website was not responsible for the adverts, citing a law that shields social media and other internet platforms from liability for what users say or post online. The law, however, allowed for criminal investigations, plus a major Senate investigation and a cache of discovered documents eventually suggested that Backpage was actively involved in creating and editing the advert, making the site a publisher that could be liable for its content. The alleged involvement included stripping the adverts of code words such as Lolita or new to town, which could indicate an underage girl. In March, prompted by the Backpage saga, Congress changed Section 230 to allow more state and civil lawsuits against websites related to online trafficking for knowingly assisting, supporting, or facilitating crimes. How did it get away with it for so long? Are there people in power who are turning a blind eye to the evidence of human trafficking and allowing it to continue? The global statistics beg a belief. From stopthetraffic.org, over 40 million people are currently victims of trafficking. 71% are females and 29% males. There are an estimated 5 million people exploited in sex slavery. Of the 40 million, 25% are children under the age of 18, estimated at over 10 million. 21% of the sex trafficking industry are children. Edinburgh News reports in June this year that cases of online child abuse are on the rise. Parents around the world are being warned by police and charities about a rise in predators targeting children online during lockdown. The volume of obscene material posted online around the world was found to have increased by more than double, reaching 4 million posts from March to April. In the last month, there have been roughly 9 million attempts to access CSA websites, according to the Internet Watch Foundation. Australian police have reported downloads rose by 86% in only 3 weeks following the lockdown. Police in Denmark have revealed that attempts to access child abuse websites has trebled since the start of the lockdown, while the Spanish National Police have announced that reports of online CSA videos increased by more than 20%. What is causing the rise? According to experts, the closure of schools and play parks, along with the rise of online-based learning, has led to children spending more time online, increasing their risk of grooming. So why is Facebook not increasing its reviewers and checkers to keep their platform extra safe at a time when children are at their most vulnerable during the lockdown? Now that we know the extent of this issue, it's up to each of us to be vigilant and protect all children from this rising threat. You can talk to your children about the risks and let them know that it's safe for them to talk to you about concerns, as the majority of young people do not tell their parents when a stranger messages them. You can install parental control apps to make sure your children aren't being contacted by predators. Predators can use any online platform to make contact. Please report any suspicious contacts or posts to the host and to Internet Watch Foundation. There are groups working to normalize CSA. Here is one example of what to look out for. This is from a Twitter post. They added P to LGBT to represent the pedosexual movement. The person's account, named Equal Love for All, has been deleted, but it shows how a seemingly innocuous username can have a very sinister intent behind it. This is from the website of pro-paedophile group NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association. They're hijacking Pride 2020, calling it Boy Love Day. And this one is just speculation. Bill Maher's Kid Love Productions. He also defended the relationship between a teacher who fell pregnant from an underage student. This screenshot from NetAware has a photo of a child that I also think is completely inappropriate. For a site that heads Let's Keep Kids Safe Online How can a photo like this be on their website? I know it is in no way illegal, but considering the scope of CSA on the internet and in the real world. Before we wrap up the video by taking a look at the Gatesy-esque rabbit hole of Zuckerberg, let's have a quick look at the larger issue of trafficking and CSA, as it exposes an evident failing of not just Facebook but protective agencies, to the point where we have to ask if this is just ongoing negligence or something more sinister. This 2017 Forbes article confirms that human trafficking is the world's fastest growing crime, calling for legislation criminalizing human trafficking and adequate enforcement and review mechanisms, and appropriate assistance for victims. Why aren't these already in place when it's such a prominent issue? 3 years on, in February this year, it reports that the $150 billion business is still on the rise. At the White House Summit on Human Trafficking, several notable anti-trafficking organizations boycotted the event. At a time when global statistics are still on the rise, why did they boycott the summit? They disagree with the US government's allowing victims to remain and work temporarily in the US if they work with law enforcement to help with the investigation. The Human Trafficking Legal Center founder said this undermines protections carefully built for victims over 2 decades. Time will tell if the US's new approach will be effective, and as 2 decades has not been able to reduce the continued rise in trafficking, I'm willing to give a new approach a chance, as something has to change to protect humanity from this crime, especially when we have reports of large-scale abuses by groups designated to protecting vulnerable children. From The Guardian, February 2018, UNICEF admits failings with child victims of alleged abuse by peacekeepers. Alleged? Over 600 women and children have reported being abused. The United Nations Children's Agency has admitted shortcomings in its humanitarian support to children who allege they were abused by United Nations peacekeepers in Central African Republic. Think this was a one-off? Human Rights Watch reported January this year that the United Nations peacekeepers has an abuse problem, reporting of incidents in Haiti, Somalia, Central African Republic, and Democratic Republic of Congo, with resulting prosecutions being rare. The 2016 UN Stop SA by peacekeepers lists reports dating back to the 1990s already, adding Bosnia-Herzegovina, Cambodia, East Timor, Libya, Sierra Leone, and Sudan to the list. The film The Whistleblower is a true account of multiple powerful organizations, including the UN, involved in trafficking and abusing minors in Bosnia, highlighting the lack of investigation and convictions despite evidence of large-scale involvement and cover-up. The film's spotlight also shines a light on the hundreds of priests guilty of abusing thousands of children, uncovered by the Boston Globe, where abuser priests were simply moved to new areas if their crimes were being noticed, and with the Vatican stepping in to prevent trials or publicity. Again, zero accountability. December 2018, hundreds of trafficked children lost by UK authorities. Nearly 25% go missing from council care. Studies claim the system is failing trafficked children. Every Child Protected Against Trafficking provides UK statistics. The bottom text states that the UK is the most prominent country of origin for trafficked children, and that 1/4 of these are children from the care system. They wrote a report called Still in Harm's Way already in 2016. Their 2017 update shows numbers were still alarmingly high. In May of this year, they write about the harmful impact of the lockdown, creating a perfect storm for children to be re-trafficked or harmed. This June, the Australian Guardian wrote that paedophiles will be jailed for life under new laws set to pass Parliament today. Sounds promising, right? Currently, 1/3 of convicted abusers never serve a single day behind bars. Talking about the radical overhaul, the minimum prison terms will be 5 to 7 years for the most serious offences. Re-offenders will face minimum sentences of 1 to 4 years. That doesn't match the headline of a life sentence. These sound extremely mild for the most severe crimes and repeat offenders. In 2018, Australia received 18,000 reports of illegal content, almost double from the previous year. Sentences need to act as a significant deterrent to others and must result in significant sentences, not simply a slap on the wrist, as is often the case. Why have these abusers only often had a slap on the wrist, and why aren't the radical changes showing harsher sentences? The Mail on Sunday in 2016 wrote about the UK's ICSA investigations. Police failure in 155 historic abuse cases. Investigation into claims police protected VIP abusers. In the trials, police testified that when an abuse case involved a high-profile person, the case was shut down. So these crimes have been an issue for over 20 years, and instead of effectively reducing it, it's on the rise year after year. Is there any hope on the horizon? May 2020, President Trump signs an executive order seeking to strip Twitter and Facebook of liability shield, meaning we will be able to hold them accountable for their failings. In April 2018, Foster-Sester bill was signed into law by President Donald Trump. The Allow States and Victims to Fight Online Sex Trafficking and Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act. The legislations contain a statute meant to close the loophole in the safe harbor provisions of the Communications Decency Act that protected Internet services providers from liability over content hosted by its users. This is what allowed Backpage to finally be shut down. Bloomberg reported in 2018 that Facebook and Twitter endorsed the Honesty Act. Later that year, Reuters reported that the Trump administration is working on consumer data privacy policy, with the Commerce Department meeting with Facebook and others. Under the new law, large tech companies like Facebook have to, as of this year, let consumers view the data they have collected on them, request the deletion of data, and opt out of having data sold to third parties. Internet companies are bracing for the impact of tighter privacy rules. Facebook said that profit margins would plummet for several years due to the cost of improving privacy safeguards and slowing usage in the biggest advertising markets. In August last year, Facebook posted, "Now you can see and control the data that apps and websites share with Facebook. Here you can adjust your settings for off-Facebook online activity and clear the history of data." On the 6th of January this year, it uploaded guiding you through your privacy choices in 4 specific sections to strengthen your account security and control who can see what you share and how your information is used. We know privacy is personal, and we've integrated privacy tips to help you make the right privacy choices for you. Shame that it took the consumer data privacy policy for you to respect our privacy. To change your settings and clear your history on a laptop or PC, go to Settings, your Facebook information, and adjust to your preferences. And under Apps and Websites, you can turn off offline activity. On the 28th of January, Zuckerberg posted that Facebook app is starting this decade by giving us more control over our privacy. One of our main goals for the next decade is to build much stronger privacy protections for everyone on Facebook. Everyone? We know we have a lot of work to do here, which is why this is such a priority for our teams and for me personally. After over a decade of exploiting and making enormous profits from our data, and unwelcome news of data breaches and tax avoidance, so that the benefits of these profits don't even filter down into our communities? Let's hope that this is truly a positive change from Facebook. On June 11th, Facebook announced that it joins industry efforts to fight child exploitation online. It's a problem across the internet, and it's our collective responsibility, from social media and messaging services to cloud services and gaming platforms, as well as device makers and internet service providers, to fight this abuse and protect kids online. We use sophisticated technology and behavioral signals not only to prevent, detect, and remove images and videos that exploit children, but also to detect and prevent grooming or potentially inappropriate interactions between a minor and an adult. And we use this technology across Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp. But any industry-wide problem requires solutions broader than just one company. We need a robust international effort to combat this problem. That is true, and Facebook joining in the global campaign to eradicate online CSA is a noble one, but with the amount of content I saw there just last month, and the subsequent responses to my reports, show that it has a long way to go just making its own platform safe for children. It continues, that's why today Facebook joined Google, Microsoft, and 15 other tech companies to announce the formation of Project Protect, a plan to combat online CSA, a renewed commitment and investment from the Technology Coalition, expanding its scope and impact to protect children online and guide its work for the next 15 years. It will focus on 5 key areas: tech innovation, collective action, independent research, information and knowledge sharing, and transparency and accountability. It also states working with 2 child protection groups, End Violence Against Children Partnership and the We Protect Global Alliance. On the 10th of June, the Technology Coalition announced Project Protect. Started 15 years ago, the Technology Coalition brings together companies across the technology industry. We support companies of all sizes, including those just establishing their child safety protocols and processes. Together we tackle risks to online child safety through shared best practices, mentorship, and coordinated efforts to improve the detection and reporting of abuse imagery and other exploitive practices that put children at risk. In the last decade, member companies have made progress with the development and rollout of innovative technology to combat online CSEA. For example, PhotoDNA, a collaboration between Microsoft and Dartmouth, is used by organizations worldwide to detect, disrupt, and report millions of CSE images. Google's Content Safety API dramatically improves the ability of NGOs and other tech companies to review this content at scale. Facebook's open-source photo and video matching technology is enabling companies to help keep their services safe and allowing hash-sharing systems to communicate with each other, making the systems more powerful. Here are the 2 child protection agencies Facebook is working with. We Protect Global Partnership, linked to Facebook's increasing accountability and consistency across the industry through meaningful reporting of content across member platforms and services. We Protect Global Alliance mission is to end CSE online, combines 2 major initiatives. The Global Alliance, led by the US Department of Justice and the EU Commission, and We Protect, which was convened by the UK. This new merged initiative has unprecedented reach, with 84 countries already members of We Protect or the Global Alliance, along with major international organizations, 24 of the biggest names in the global technology industry, and 20 leading civil society organizations. Here is End Violence Against Children. Since its inception in 2016, the Global Partnership to End Violence Against Children has worked on multiple levels to achieve our vision, a world in which every child grows up safe and secure. We offer an opportunity for groups of all kinds, from governments to international organizations to children themselves, to work together to prevent and respond to violence on an unprecedented level. They provide these sobering statistics. 1 in 2 children experience violence every year. A child dies as a result of violence every 7 minutes, and 10 million children are subjected to modern slavery. How is Facebook working with them? It is funding research to advance their collective understanding of the experiences and patterns of child-related content online, and learn from effective efforts to prevent, deter, and combat it. Here is their funding progress so far. Just $37,600,000? That's not much for a global child protection group. I looked for any specific donation information to see how much Facebook had given, but couldn't find any. Anyway, it's not as if Zuckerberg is one of the richest people in the world. Oh, well, he's only the 4th richest, at just age 36, valued at $84 billion. That's $84,000 million. So if he's not shouting about funding child safety charities with CSA, an issue that plagues his own platforms, what is he funding? This year alone, we have these donations. 20 million to UNF, WHO and CDC to tackle the virus. 700,000 masks for health workers. $800,000 to his favorite restaurants. 10 million this month to racial justice groups. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, 13.6 million to study the virus in Bay Area. The 25 million towards the Virus Therapeutics Accelerator, and 1 million to Hawaii. Here is the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, a future for everyone. Their mission is to find new ways to leverage technology, community-driven solutions and collaboration to accelerate progress in science, education, and within our justice and opportunity work. This infographic expands to include technology, grants and ventures, advocacy, and movement capacity building. Let's look at education. Their focus areas are to build and support tools and programs that make it easier to apply the science of learning and human development, providing a truly transformative, personalized learning experience for physical, social, emotional, and identity development. Supporting the work of cutting-edge research on how we learn and the implementation of evidence-based practices. In justice and opportunity, helping families navigate rising housing costs. Supporting common-sense immigration policies. Reforming the criminal justice system. Under technology, we are in a unique position to build philanthropy with great engineering team to help partners scale their social change faster. We are a new kind of philanthropy focused on engineering change at scale. Whoa! To help bring technology to the table in new ways that drive solutions. In advocacy and social movement building, systems change is necessary to build a more just society, but it can only happen through the sustained power of movements, particularly those led by people most impacted by the problem. Their focus areas are reforming policies and practices, contribute to ballot and legislative measures, and supporting community change makers. We provide strategic counsel, funding, and organizing resources to communities and coalitions working towards social change. Interesting that it doesn't go into any specific detail about what they actually mean by social change. They also have a grants page which states that they've given $2 billion since 2015. They're structured to be able to support any idea. They show their fundees, which include valuable projects such as distance learning and mental health, as well as technology and science funding. Their technology page quotes, "Collaboration, risk-taking, and staying close to the scientific community are our best opportunities to accelerate progress in science." This page had a link to another organization that I knew nothing about, the Chan Zuckerberg BioHub. Their vision: in 2016 it was launched with a bold vision to cure, prevent and manage diseases in our children's lifetime. Here's a clip from their homepage.
If we can do better, I think we can push science faster by enabling people to do their own thing.
Another important aspect about scientific culture is to instill a sense of fearlessness in people, and that there's no boundaries. You work on any problem that interests you, and today people tend to get very specialized and caught up in particular areas and afraid to go into other ones. And I think both of us through our careers have not been afraid to trample over those boundaries, and it's been very productive, and that's an important part of the culture we're going to create in the BioHub.
What are they working on? Biochips, a new wave of bioengineering focused on developing the biological equivalent of a computer's integrated circuit. These are microchips or biochips embedded with human cells to produce data. CRISPR, gene editing, to edit and change genomes. How turning particular genes on or off affects the basic function of a cell, and which genes are essential for life. High performance computing, in partnership with Chan Zuckerberg Science, they plan to make targeted investments to develop computational technology which will apply advances in AI and machine learning capabilities to address the data processing needs of biomedical research. Let's hope this and their biochip data, which will store medical information, is more secure than Facebook's data privacy track record. Their BioHub aims to enable infectious disease sequencing globally, with funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The BioHub will help implement metagenomic sequencing for infectious disease projects in 10 countries. Not only is Zuckerberg funding Gates's project, but Gates is also funding Zuckerberg's project. How cozy! I'll leave you with this happy scene. Here's Zuckerberg asking Gates for advice in a Harvard video. Who knew that they were working so closely in the same fields, that both started out and made their fortunes in technology and landed up working alongside global giants like the WHO and the UN. And now they are both on a crusade to eradicate disease from humanity around the globe. All I can say is, I sure hope they're working for good. Although from their track records, that for sure ain't looking good. Hello darkness, my old friend. Your time of rule is at an end. God's grace is growing with the light. May you be blessed with forgiveness tonight. Humanity is gaining insight. Their spirits soar to higher heights. to protect every man, woman, and child, and bless the earth and all